Hello guys, welcome back. Or, if it's your first time here, welcome to History at Sleep. This is the place where history slows down, where battles, empires, and forgotten ages become quiet stories, told softly, so you can drift away. Tonight, we're going somewhere far back to a time when life was colder, harder, and far less forgiving. The Middle Ages. A world without comfort, without electricity, without mercy. So, get comfortable, close your eyes, and imagine you've just woken up in a small dark room. The year is 1350. The air smells of smoke and damp straw. Outside, a church bell tolls through the mist. This is why you wouldn't last a day in medieval times. The sun has finally risen, though it's more of a pale grey light than the warm glow you're used to. It slips through the cracks of old wood and straw, painting the village in shades of ash and gold. The air is cold, colder than you thought morning could be. Each breath feels sharp, heavy with mist and smoke from a dozen small fires. People are already at work. They always are. No alarms, no schedules. Only the rhythm of survival, set by the sun, and the needs of hunger. A man sharpens a blade on a worn stone. A woman stirs a pot over a fire, the thin smell of cabbage and barley drifting into the street. Children gather wood, barefoot in the mud, their laughter faint, quickly swallowed by the chill. There is no sound of machines, no hum of life as you know it. Only the crackle of fire, the clinking of metal, and the low murmur of tired voices. You walk slowly through the narrow path between huts. Each one is made of wood and thatch, its roof sagging under years of rain. Smoke leaks through gaps where the chimney should be. Inside, a single room holds everything. A bed of straw, a small table, a wooden bowl, and sometimes a family of 6. Privacy does not exist here, comfort neither, only the quiet acceptance that this is life, and it always will be. You stop by the village well. The water is cold and cloudy. You dip your hand in, and it bites like ice. Still, it's the cleanest water you'll find today. Most will drink ale, weak, watered-down beer, not because they want to, but because it's safer than what flows in the stream. Around you, the world moves slowly, as if time itself drags its feet through the mud. The baker carries loaves that smell faintly burnt. The blacksmith hammers iron with a rhythm like a heartbeat. And the church bell rings again, not to mark the hour, but to remind everyone that life here belongs to something greater than them. In the distance, the fields stretch endlessly. Soon, the peasants will move toward them, with tools made of wood, hands raw from labor, backs already aching before the day begins. You might think you could do this just one day, just to see what it was like. But here, even morning feels like a battle. No breakfast of comfort, no warmth of sunlight, no certainty that there will be food tonight. Your breath trembles as the wind passes through your thin tunic. You pull it tighter, but it doesn't help. It never does. And as you stand in the center of this silent village, watching smoke curl up into the gray sky, you begin to understand. You wouldn't last a day here. The day stretches before you, long, gray, and heavy. There are no breaks here, no weekends, no hours that belong to you. Only daylight, and the labor it demands. You follow a small group of villagers toward the fields. Their tools hang from their shoulders, simple wooden handles tipped with dull iron. They don't speak much. The morning silence is sacred in its own tired way. The earth beneath your feet turns from mud to frozen soil. You can smell it, damp, ancient, alive. Each step feels heavier than the last. By the time you reach the edge of the farmland, the sun has already climbed high behind the clouds. The land is wide and endless. Patches of green cling desperately to the brown. Crows pick at the remains of the last harvest. Somewhere, a man yells at an ox too weak to pull the plow. This is not the kind of farming you've seen in pictures. There are no bright fields, no golden wheat under a blue sky. Only cold hands, aching backs, and the dull rhythm of tools hitting the earth. A woman nearby swings a sickle through tall grass. Her movements are slow, almost mechanical. She has done this every day for years, long enough that her body remembers, even when her mind drifts away. You try to help, gripping a wooden handle and driving it into the soil, but the ground resists. It's hard, unyielding, and soon your arms begin to shake. Blisters bloom where you once had comfort. Sweat mixes with dirt. The wind stings your face. Around you, no one stops. They can't. Every minute counts, because when the sun sets, the world will go dark again, and no one wants to work by candlelight. By midday, your back aches as if pressed by stone. Your clothes are soaked through. Your stomach growls, but there is no lunch waiting, only a small piece of bread, a sip of ale, and a moment to breathe. The others don't complain. They've learned that in this world, silence is a kind of endurance. Pain is normal, hunger is expected, and hope is something whispered only at night. As the hours crawl by, the sky begins to fade into gold, and the air grows colder again. The oxen slow, the people move like shadows. The tools return to shoulders, and with every step back to the village, you realize that the day has taken more from you than it gave. The field remains, quiet, endless, and indifferent. Tomorrow, it will be the same, and the next day, and the next, because here, work never ends. It only pauses long enough for the dark to arrive. The sun sinks slowly behind the grey hills, and with it, the world exhales. The work is done, for now. Tools are hung, animals tied, fires lit. The faint orange glow of small flames spreads through the village like tired stars. You walk among them, feeling the warmth on your hands, the smoke in your lungs. Inside each hut, the same ritual unfolds. A single pot over a dim fire, the sound of bubbling broth, the smell of barley, onion, and old meat. If there is meat at all. This is dinner, not a feast, but a survival. A few slices of bread, a wooden bowl of thin stew, shared among a family of many. You sit by the fire with them, a man, his wife, 2 children, and an old grandmother, whose eyes seem to hold the memory of every winter that's come before. They speak quietly, not about dreams or plans, but about the weather, the harvest, the price of salt. A small loaf is passed around the circle. Each person tears a piece. No one takes too much. They can't afford to. The taste is bland, the bread hard. But after a day in the fields, it feels like luxury. Outside, the last light fades from the sky. Darkness comes quickly here, like a blanket dropped over the land. There are no street lamps, no glow from distant cities. Only the moon and the faint flicker of torches. The air grows colder. The wind whispers through the cracks in the wall, and the sound of the forest begins. The slow rustle of branches, the faint cry of an unseen animal, the low howl of a wolf carried on the wind. The villagers huddle closer to the fire. They tell small stories, not grand legends, just memories of seasons past, of people gone, of things they wish they could forget. And then, silence. One by one, they drift to rest. The children curl beside the fire. The man lies down on straw. The old woman crosses herself,
whispering a prayer to last until morning. You watch the candle burn lower. Its light trembles against the wall, shifting shadows that look almost alive. The warmth fades. The night deepens. You lie down, feeling the hardness of the floor beneath you, the thin blanket that barely keeps the cold away. Outside, the wind sighs again, a sound both ancient and eternal. And as your eyes begin to close, you realize this is peace here, not comfort, not safety, just the end of another day. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the heartbeat of the village, slow, steady, and tired. The castle looms above the valley like a shadow that never fades. Its towers cut through the mist, and the wind hums through the narrow windows as if the stones themselves are sighing. You walk the winding path up the hill. Each step echoes, a lonely rhythm in a world built for fear, not for comfort. Inside the gates, the air smells of smoke, iron and dampness. A guard nods as you pass, his armor dull and scratched, his face tired beneath the helmet. Even here, the ones who stand watch are as weary as those they protect. The great hall opens before you, stone walls lit by torches that flicker against the gloom. Long wooden tables stretch across the room, their surfaces marked with the scars of countless meals. A fire burns in the hearth, large, bright, and yet somehow failing to chase away the chill that creeps through the walls. The Lord sits at the far end, wrapped in fur and silence. His eyes, pale and distant, stare into the flames as servants move quietly around him. You might think this is luxury, the life of the noble, the master of all he surveys. But here too, there is little warmth. The stone bleeds cold, the draught finds every crack, and the food, though richer, cannot fill the emptiness that lives in this place. The lady of the house appears, her gown heavy with fabric and jewels, but her hands rough and red from the cold. Even silk feels thin in a castle that never truly warms. Musicians play softly in the corner, a lute, a flute, a single drum. Their melody drifts through the hall like smoke, faint and fragile.
Dinner is served, a roasted bird, dark bread, wine diluted with water. Servants pour and wait in silence, eyes low, hands trembling if they spill a drop. Above, banners hang motionless in the still air, each one a symbol of power, of family, of pride, but also of the endless fear of losing it all, because even the nobles live under the same sky. When plague comes, it does not ask for titles. When famine strikes, no walls are high enough to keep hunger away. Outside, thunder rolls over the hills. The candles flicker. The Lord looks up, and for a moment, you see the same thing in his eyes that you saw in the peasants below, a quiet, helpless fatigue. He drinks, leans back in his chair, and the hall grows quiet again. Servants clear the table. The fire burns lower. And soon, the grand hall returns to darkness. You step outside into the courtyard. Rain begins to fall, slow, steady, each drop shining in the torchlight. From here, you can see the village below. Tiny fires glowing in the mist, like stars in a world that has forgotten the sky. And it hits you again. No one here, not even the Lord in his stone fortress, would last a day in your world. And you would not last a day in his. The morning light passes through colored glass, breaking into shards of red, blue, and gold that dance on the stone floor. The church stands silent, tall, ancient, its walls heavy with centuries of prayer and grief. Inside, the air smells of wax and damp stone. The faint smoke of burning candles curls toward the ceiling, vanishing into the darkness above. You walk slowly down the aisle. Each step echoes, as if the ground itself remembers every soul that's ever knelt here. A priest moves near the altar, his robes whispering against the floor. He doesn't look at you. His eyes are fixed on the crucifix, his lips moving in endless prayer. To live in the Middle Ages is to live beneath the eyes of God. Not the gentle God of comfort, but the God of judgment. A God who sees everything and forgives sometimes. For the people of this world, faith is not a choice. It is air, it is water, it is fear. Every cough, every drought, every lost child is seen as punishment, a test, a reminder of how small humanity truly is. The church bell rings, low and deep. Its sound rolls through the village, calling all to kneel. You join the crowd outside. Men, women, children, heads bowed, hands clasped. The priest speaks in Latin, a language none of them understand. But they listen anyway, eyes wet, hearts trembling. They are told to obey, to give, to confess, to accept their suffering as divine purpose. And they do, because in this time, to doubt the church is to risk your soul, and sometimes your life. The sermons speak of heaven, but also of hell, a place so vividly described that even in the coldest night, people feel its fire. And so, they live in quiet devotion. They pray before they sleep. They bless their bread before they eat. They cross themselves when thunder strikes, and whisper the names of saints when death passes through the village. Inside the church, the candles burn lower. The priest's voice fades into a soft hum. And in the stillness, you feel the strange peace that fear can bring, a comfort born not from safety, but from surrender. Outside, the bell tolls again, slow, endless, a reminder that in this world, God watches everything, and no one truly escapes his gaze. It begins quietly. It always does. A cough in the night, a fever that won't fade, a neighbor who doesn't wake. Then the whispers start. The fear spreads faster than the sickness itself. The villagers speak in low voices, crossing themselves at every sound from the hills. The air grows heavy. The birds stop singing. And the church bells ring more often now, not for prayer, but for funerals. The Black Death has arrived. No one knows where it came from. Some say it was the rats, others the wind. Some believe it's God's punishment, a cleansing of sins too great to name. The truth doesn't matter, only the fear. You walk through the village, and the world feels changed, emptier, quieter, as if it's holding its breath. Doors are shut, windows sealed. Smoke no longer rises from the chimneys. The smell of death lingers in the air, sweet, sickly, unmistakable. A family huddles inside their hut. The mother prays, her hands trembling over a child who burns with fever. The father sits in silence, staring into nothing. He knows what's coming. Outside, men in dark robes carry carts. Wooden wheels creak. Voices call out through the fog, "Bring out your dead." And from every doorway, someone answers. There is no medicine, no cure, no comfort. Priests walk the streets with incense, chanting prayers against the invisible. Some believe the smell will drive away the plague. Others think it hides the stench of the dying. You see the fear in every face, the kind that has no end, no escape. Even the church cannot promise salvation now. Its doors are crowded with the desperate, begging, weeping, confessing. Some light candles until the wax burns their fingers. Others run, fleeing to the woods, to the mountains, to anywhere that death hasn't yet touched. But it follows, always. Days turn into weeks. Graves fill faster than the earth can cover them. The bells ring until their sound becomes part of the wind itself. And when you finally stand alone in the empty street, you feel it, the weight of a world undone. The silence, the loss, the fragile truth that life here was never certain, only borrowed. You look up at the grey sky, no sound, no birds, only the faint whisper of wind through the fields. The Middle Ages were not a story of peace or of kings and knights. They were a story of endurance, of a world that kept breathing, even when death filled its lungs. And somehow, when the plague faded, life began again. Not because they conquered it, but because they simply refused to stop living. When the sickness came, doctors were few, and those who called themselves healers were often guided more by faith than by knowledge. They wore dark robes and bird-like masks, long curved beaks filled with herbs and oils. They believed the scent would protect them from the poisoned air, the miasma they called it. Inside those masks, the air was heavy with lavender, mint, and vinegar. Outside, the world was rotting. A doctor walks from house to house, his boots sinking in the damp earth. He carries a stick to poke at the sick from a distance. No one wants to be touched, not even by hope. In dark rooms lit by weak candlelight, he writes strange recipes. Boil onions with garlic and wine. Carry a ruby near your heart. Pray to St. Roch 3 times each morning. People drink potions of honey and ash. They rub salt into wounds. They hang herbs from their doors, believing evil spirits will turn away. Some think music can heal. In the town square, a lone fiddler plays softly, his bow trembling. The sound is fragile, a small defiance against despair. Others believe in bloodletting, cutting open the skin to release the sickness. The water runs red in wooden bowls. The sick grow weaker, but still, they try. Not all healers are cruel, some are kind. Simple people with simple remedies, warm broth, clean rags, a gentle hand on a fevered forehead. They don't know why it works. They just know that sometimes it helps. And when the worst of it passes, those small acts of care are what remain. Because in the end, no one remembers the names of the physicians or the weight of their books. They remember the neighbor who stayed, the mother who whispered prayers in the dark, the stranger who shared his bread when he had none to spare. That too was healing, not of the body, but of the spirit. As weeks become months, the sickness fades. The bells ring less often now. Smoke rises again from the chimneys. The fields begin to stir with life, but nothing feels the same. People walk slower, they speak softer. Every glance carries the memory of what was lost. And yet, there's something new in the air. A strange, quiet wisdom. The sense that life, though fragile, is sacred. It begins not with celebration, but with silence. One morning, the first rays of sunlight spill through the clouds, and for the first time in months, the world smells clean again. The fields that once stood empty now rustle softly with the wind. A few farmers return to the soil, their faces pale, their hands trembling, but alive. A woman kneels by the river, washing the dust from her clothes. The water is cold, but it feels like forgiveness. The village has survived, barely, and yet it breathes. No one speaks of the dead. Their names are carried quietly, like small stones in every heart. Instead, people rebuild, brick by brick, meal by meal, prayer by prayer. The baker's oven burns again, filling the air with the scent of bread and smoke. Children, smaller now, play in the mud with wooden sticks and scraps of cloth. Their laughter sounds strange, as if the world has forgotten how to make such a noise. But slowly, life begins to take shape. The church door opens. Its candles are lit again, each one a tiny echo of hope. The priest speaks of faith, but the people don't need reminding. They've seen what endurance truly means. In the evenings, families gather around small fires. The flames dance across tired faces, and stories return. Old tales of heroes and kings, of dragons and saints. But beneath every story is a new truth, that survival itself is a kind of legend. The nights are quiet again. You can hear the crickets, the river, the faint sound of wind through thatched roofs. And as you lie in the straw, you realize this peace is not the same as before. It's deeper, more fragile, more precious. Because now they know what it means to lose everything and to still wake up. The Middle Ages were an age of pain, but also of quiet resilience. People worked, prayed, and built new lives atop the ashes of the old. Every harvest, every child born, every song sung beside the fire was a victory, a promise that life would not fade so easily. The rooster crows long before the sun. It's cold, always cold. You rise from your straw bed, stretching sore muscles, pulling a coarse wool tunic over your shoulders. The hut smells of smoke and damp wood. There is no glass on the windows, only oiled cloth to keep the wind out. It doesn't work very well. Beside you, the fire has burned down to ash. You stir it gently, blowing until a faint orange glow returns. The warmth is weak, but enough to begin another day. Outside, the world is grey and wet. The fields stretch endlessly, their edges lost in fog. You grab a wooden hoe, your hands cracked from cold and dirt, and step into the mud. The soil clings to your boots. The smell of earth and manure fills your lungs. It's not pleasant, but it's familiar. This is your life. Sunrise to sunset. You work the land that isn't yours. You owe a portion of everything you grow to the Lord who owns the village. You owe labor, you owe taxes, you owe obedience. You own very little, a few tools, a hut, perhaps a chicken or two, but it's enough to survive. Around you, other villagers move quietly. A woman leads a cow to pasture. A boy carries a bucket of water from the well at the edge of the green. Each step is part of a rhythm, a song that's been sung for generations. There is no rush here, only routine, only the slow turning of days. By noon, your back aches, your stomach growls. You sit beneath a tree, tear a piece of hard bread, and drink water from a clay jug. It isn't luxury, but hunger makes everything taste better. Sometimes you talk with others, sometimes you don't. The silence is easier. Words are saved for prayer, for gossip, for songs at night. When evening comes, the light fades fast. The air cools again. You return to your hut, wash your hands in cold water, and sit by the fire with your family. The day's labor is done, but rest is not comfort. It's survival. You eat stew from a shared bowl, mostly cabbage, a little grain, sometimes a piece of salted pork if fortune smiles. The taste is simple, but it warms your chest, and for a moment, the world feels kind. Outside, the sky turns black. The stars return, silent witnesses to another day endured. Life in the Middle Ages was not lived in glory. It was lived in persistence. Every day was a test of strength, of patience, of faith. And though the people were poor, they carried something rich within them. A quiet courage, a belief that even the smallest light could keep the darkness away. The castle looms above the hills, its grey walls cutting through the morning mist. Inside, the air smells of smoke, tallow, and roasted meat. Torches burn against cold stone, casting long shadows that dance along the walls. This is where power lives, where comfort is rare, but greater than any peasant could dream. The Lord sits at the high table, a golden goblet in hand. His robe is trimmed with fur, his voice low and commanding. Every movement around him is measured, cautious, polite. At his side sits the lady of the house, her dress heavy with silk, her fingers weighed down by silver rings. She watches the hall with quiet eyes, seeing everything, saying little. Below them, the tables stretch long and loud. Knights, servants, and guests fill the space with chatter and laughter. Dogs roam between the benches, snatching bones from the rushes on the floor. The smell of food is thick: roasted boar, stewed vegetables, fresh bread, and sweet honey cakes. The feast is not just a meal, it is theatre, a reminder of wealth, of order, of control. Every bite, every song, every toast is part of the display. A minstrel sings softly in the corner, his voice trembling through the hall. A knight boasts of battles fought, his words half truth, half memory. And the servants move silently, eyes lowered, refilling cups, clearing bones, invisible in their labor. But even here, luxury does not mean safety. Beyond the castle walls, the world is wild: bandits, famine, sickness, rebellion. The nobles feast tonight, but every candle burns with the faint scent of fear. They live surrounded by stone, not for comfort, but for protection. Thick walls, narrow windows, heavy gates that close before sunset. The castle is not just a home, it's a fortress. Inside, the laughter grows louder and the torches flare brighter. Yet beneath the music, you can still hear it. The faint howl of wind across the battlements, a reminder of how fragile even power can be. The Lord raises his goblet. His voice fills the hall, to life and to those who hold it. The guests cheer, the fire roars, and for a few hours the illusion holds. Outside, the night grows colder. The peasants sleep in straw huts far below, their bellies empty, their dreams quieter. But for now, in this great hall of flickering light and shadow, the world feels distant, and time itself seems to pause. Power in the Middle Ages was both blessing and curse. The higher you climbed, the further you had to fall. Even kings could be undone by a whisper, a rumor, a single night of bad fortune. The Middle Ages were never far from war. Even in peace, the sound of steel was never forgotten. Castles were not built for beauty. They were built to endure. Stone upon stone, tower upon tower, each wall a promise that fear could be kept away. From the highest rampart, a guard watches the horizon. His armor is heavy, his breath clouds in the cold air. Below him, the village lies quiet, its lights flickering like distant stars. But beyond the hills, smoke rises. Somewhere, another lord is gathering men, another border is being tested, another kingdom whispers of rebellion. The alarm bell rings. The courtyard fills with movement. Men strapping on leather and mail, sharpening blades, saddling horses. The air is thick with fear and duty. Each man knows what may come and what may not return. War in the Middle Ages was slow and brutal. There were no quick victories, just long marches through mud and hunger, sieges that lasted months, disease that killed more than swords ever could. You can hear the weight of it, the clatter of armor, the dull thud of hooves, the whispered prayers before battle. Knights charge across open fields, their banners snapping in the wind. The clash is deafening, metal striking metal, shields splintering, voices shouting in chaos. But war was not always grand. It was often unseen. A peasant's hut burned in the night, a cart stolen from the road, a river red for a day, and then forgotten. Every victory was paid for in silence. Every crown was built on bones. Inside the castle, the lady waits by the fire. A single candle burns beside her, its flame trembling with every gust. She prays quietly, for her husband, her sons, for the land itself. Outside, the snow begins to fall, softly, patiently, as if the sky is trying to cover the scars below. When the battle is done, the survivors return, tired, hollow, changed. Some don't speak, some can't stop shaking. All carry ghosts in their eyes. The Lord walks among them, his armor dented, his voice low. He has won, but there is no joy in it. Victory, in this age, is just another kind of survival. The castle stands tall once more, its walls blackened with smoke, its gate repaired with new iron. Life resumes, feasts return, the songs grow louder again. But deep inside, everyone knows the truth. Peace is never permanent. It is only the quiet between storms. Every village had its church, sometimes small, made of wood and mud, sometimes grand, carved from stone, reaching toward heaven. But everywhere, its bell ruled the rhythm of life. When it rang, you stopped working. When it tolled, you prayed. And when it fell silent, the world felt unanchored. Faith was the center of everything. Every birth, every harvest, every death was marked by prayer. You didn't question it. You didn't argue. The church was not only the house of God, it was the law, the school, the calendar, the heartbeat of the Middle Ages. Inside a monastery, the day begins before dawn. The monks rise quietly, their robes whispering in the cold corridors. Candles flicker against the walls, casting trembling light on faces calm and pale. They pray. They copy books by hand, each letter written slowly, carefully, as if each stroke might please God himself. Hours pass in silence. Only the scratching of quills, the turning of pages, the faint hum of voices chanting. Outside, the world is rough and uncertain. Inside these walls, order, ritual, peace. The monks grow their own food, tend to the sick, brew medicines from herbs. Their lives are quiet, but not easy. For them, discipline is a kind of devotion. Cold baths, long fasts, sleepless nights. Each hardship is a prayer in motion. In the village below, faith takes a different form. A woman lights a candle for her lost husband. A farmer carves a cross into the bark of a tree before sowing his seeds. A child whispers a prayer before sleep, afraid of the dark that feels alive beyond the walls. Fear and faith are intertwined. Every drought, every plague, every storm is seen as a message, a warning, a test. And so people obey, not because they must, but because they are afraid not to. The church speaks for God. The priests hold power beyond kings. Forgiveness can be bought, and sin can be punished, even by fire. But faith is not only fear, it is also comfort, the single light that keeps people steady through endless winter nights.
When everything else fails, the crops, the health, the hope, they still have prayer. They still have the promise of something greater beyond this world of pain, and so they endure. Kneeling on cold stone floors, hands clasped, hearts trembling, believing that someone, somewhere, is listening. In that belief, they find peace. Not the peace of safety, but the peace of surrender. Because in the Middle Ages, to believe was to survive. The dawn breaks not over quiet fields this time, but over rooftops of wood and slate. Smoke rises from dozens of chimneys. The air smells of bread, sweat, and iron. This is not the countryside. This is the new world of the Middle Ages, the town. Narrow streets twist like veins through stone walls. Shops open one by one. A baker slides loaves from his oven, steam curling into the cold morning air. A blacksmith pounds glowing metal on his anvil, each strike echoing like a heartbeat. The market square comes alive. Merchants unroll their cloths, open barrels of salted fish, hang herbs and dried fruit from wooden beams. The noise builds slowly, traders calling out prices, buyers haggling, dogs barking, coins clinking. This is the pulse of a new age. For the first time, money begins to matter more than titles. Skill can lift a man higher than birth. The blacksmith, the mason, the tanner, they are no longer just workers. They are craftsmen, their hands shaping the very bones of civilization. At the edge of the market, a scribe sits with his quill and ink. Few can read or write, but those who can are powerful. He writes letters for others, signs contracts, copies words that will outlive him. Beside him, a woman sells candles, pale wax, smooth and precious. Each one burns for prayer, for memory, for light in a dark home. Children run through the crowd, their laughter sharp and bright. The smell of roasted meat fills the air. A traveling musician strums a lute, his song barely audible over the noise. And yet, amid all the chaos, there's a kind of harmony, a rhythm to the noise, a heartbeat of progress. Because the Middle Ages are changing, slowly, quietly, but changing. The towns grow stronger, walls rise around them, guilds form, groups of craftsmen protecting their trades, teaching their apprentices. Knowledge begins to spread through hands, through stories, through the rhythm of work itself. Night falls over the market. The stalls close. The firelight glows in windows. And in the calm after the noise, you can almost feel something new being born. A world that is beginning to dream beyond survival. A world that will one day awaken as cities. Life in the medieval town was crowded, dirty, and loud. But it carried within it the spark of everything that would come next. Science, art, invention, ambition. The people here didn't know it, but in their noise, they were building the future. The medieval town sleeps uneasily. Torches burn low. Dogs bark somewhere in the dark. And in a cold corner of the square, a man is dragged through the mud, his hands bound with rope, his voice hoarse from pleading. Justice in this world is swift, and mercy is rare. The guards speak little. The crowd gathers quietly. Everyone watches because everyone knows. Someday it could be them. In the Middle Ages, law was less about fairness and more about fear. There were no police, no trials as we know them. There was only accusation, confession, and punishment. If a man was caught stealing bread, his hand might be branded with hot iron. A woman accused of lying could be forced to stand in the square for hours, exposed to cold and shame. And for greater crimes, theft, murder, heresy, the punishment was meant to be a warning. The gallows were built high for all to see. The sound of the rope creaking in the wind was a language everyone understood. But not every man on the scaffold was guilty. Justice could be bought. Lords favored the wealthy. The poor had only silence to defend them. There were trials by ordeal, ancient tests meant to prove innocence through pain. A man might be forced to hold red-hot iron in his bare hands, or plunge his arm into boiling water. If his wounds healed cleanly, he was declared innocent. If not, his guilt was confirmed. People believed God would protect the righteous, and yet the innocent burned, and the guilty often walked free. The darkest punishments were saved for those accused of witchcraft, heresy, or betrayal. At night, in the cold dungeons beneath the castle, torches flicker on damp stone walls.
Chains hang heavy, whispers echo through the dark. The prisoner kneels, his breath shallow, his eyes empty. Sometimes confession is forced, sometimes imagined, but it always ends the same way. Outside, the people gather again. The air smells of smoke and fear. The fire burns high, and the crowd, both horrified and fascinated, watches the flame consume another secret.
This was how order was kept, through fear, through spectacle, through the belief that pain could purify. And yet, in the same towns where men were hanged, children played, church bells rang, and life went on. Because in the Middle Ages, death was never far, and fear had simply become part of life. At dawn, the square is silent again. Ashes scatter in the wind. The same sun that rose over the markets yesterday rises again today, as if nothing has happened. But the echo of those cries lingers in the stones. It always does. The night settles heavy over the village. The air feels different, thick, restless. The wind picks up, whipping through thatched roofs and open fields. In the distance, a single torch falls, and the fire begins. Wood catches quickly. The dry straw burns like paper. Flames climb walls, leap from house to house, roaring louder than thunder. People scream, rushing into the dark with buckets of water. But there is little they can do. The houses are too close, the air too dry. By morning, half the village is gone. Nothing left but ash, charred beams, and the smell of smoke that clings to everything. Fire was every medieval village's greatest fear. No water pumps, no fire brigades, only panic and prayer. One spark, and everything you own, everything you've built, is gone. And when the flames fade, hunger begins. The fields are black, the barns empty. Rain does not come, or comes too much. The harvest fails. The rivers dry up, and the same bells that once called for prayer now toll for the dying. Famine spreads like shadow. Mothers give their food to children. Fathers grow thin and silent. Old men disappear quietly into the woods, so others may eat. Even the rats become rare. The dogs too. People whisper of eating bark, of boiling grass, of bread made from dust and tears. The body weakens, the mind follows. And hope, that fragile thread, begins to fray. Then comes the cold. Winter in the Middle Ages was not a season. It was an enemy. Snow covers the fields, burying what little remains. The rivers freeze. The wind howls through the cracks in every wall. You wrap yourself in rags, huddled close to a dying fire. Your breath clouds the air. The silence outside feels endless. Every night, you pray the morning will come. For some, it doesn't. These are the black nights, when hunger and cold walk together. When the sky itself feels like it has turned away. No war, no plague. Just the slow, quiet suffering of ordinary people trying to live one more day. And yet, even then, a few lights still burn. A mother hums softly to her child. A farmer sets aside one seed to plant in spring. A priest rings the church bell, though no one is strong enough to come. They endure, because that's all they know how to do. And when spring finally returns, the ground thaws, and the sun feels warm again. The people rise from the ashes and hunger. Weaker, perhaps, but alive. Life always finds a way, even when everything else has fallen silent. The medieval world was filled with mystery. For every question, there was not science, but story. When lightning struck a tree, it was not weather, it was God's anger. When milk soured overnight, it was not bacteria, it was witchcraft. When a child fell ill, the people did not look to medicine, they looked to sin. Everything was a sign, Every shadow had meaning. In the quiet hours of the night, villagers whispered tales to each other, of spirits that wandered the woods, of demons that slipped through cracks in the walls, of saints who healed with a single touch. Stories were their way of explaining the unknowable. The forest beyond the village was alive, dark, endless, and watching. To go too far was to invite death, or worse. Every crossroads was dangerous, every mirror sacred. A black cat could mean the devil himself was near. They slept under crosses. They hung herbs in doorways. They carved symbols into their walls, hoping to keep the darkness out. And sometimes, they believed the darkness lived within people too. Witchcraft was a whisper that could kill. If your neighbor envied your crops, if your child fell sick after a visit, if your cow stopped giving milk, suspicion grew like a weed. An old woman alone in the woods was not just strange, she was dangerous. A midwife who saved too many mothers might be accused of serving something unholy. The line between miracle and curse was razor thin, and those who stepped over it rarely returned. But belief wasn't only about fear, it was also about hope. Pilgrims walked hundreds of miles to holy shrines, carrying candles and prayers. They touched relics, bones of saints, scraps of robes, drops of oil, believing they could heal the sick, forgive sins, or save a soul. Faith was a light in the endless dark. It gave meaning to suffering, a reason. Every death was not an ending, but a doorway. Every storm, a test. Every life, a small part of a plan too vast to understand. When night fell and the fire burned low, the villagers would gather close, telling stories not just to frighten each other, but to make sense of the world. And in those stories, you can still hear the echoes of who we are. Our same fears, our same need to believe that we matter. Because in a world where darkness ruled, belief was the only light that never went out. It begins like a shadow, small, distant, unseen. A whisper from the east, a sickness carried by merchants and mice. The first to fall are the rats. Their bodies appear in corners and streets. No one pays attention, not yet. Then come the fevers, the swellings under the skin, the coughing, the smell of rot, the fear that spreads faster than the disease itself. The year is 1347, and Europe is about to enter its darkest dream. The Black Death sweeps across the land like a storm. It spares no one, rich or poor, priest or peasant. Whole families vanish in days. Villages fall silent. The roads are lined with abandoned carts. Church bells toll endlessly, and the living can no longer bury the dead fast enough. They burn incense to drive away the smell. They carry flowers under their noses, believing it will purify the air. They pray, they weep, they hide, but nothing helps. Even the priests begin to run. Even the doctors turn pale. The people start to believe that God himself has turned away. In towns, the plague is everywhere. The streets are empty except for the dead. Doors are marked with red crosses. Candles burn in windows that no one will ever open again. At night, the silence is unbearable. Only the wind moves, whistling through alleys filled with bones and broken carts. Those who survive wander aimlessly, their eyes hollow, their faith shattered. The numbers are beyond counting. 1/3 of all Europe, gone, and yet somehow the world keeps turning. When the plague finally weakens, what remains is a changed world. Fields overgrown, churches empty, a new kind of quiet. The survivors are not the same. They have seen too much. They have learned that kings can die like peasants, that prayers don't always save, that life is fragile and can vanish without reason. But from that emptiness, something unexpected begins to grow. The people start asking questions about life, about faith, about power. If the church could not protect them, then perhaps the answers lie elsewhere, in the mind, in reason, in the world itself. The plague, for all its horror, plants a seed that will one day become the rebirth of knowledge, the Renaissance. The bells ring again, but softer now, not for mourning, but for memory. Because even in the darkest chapter, humanity endures, and when morning comes, the world begins to dream again. The world after the plague is quiet, but it is not the same. The people who survived carry questions heavier than grief. Why did so many die? Why did the prayers fail? Why did the world itself turn against them? And for the first time, they begin to search for answers not in heaven, but here on earth. The seeds of something new begin to grow. A monk studies old scrolls by candlelight, realizing that ancient knowledge might hold truths long forgotten. A young artist sketches a human hand with more care than a saint's halo. A merchant brings books from faraway lands, Greek, Arabic, Roman, each one a window into a world that feels larger than ever before. In the quiet corners of Europe, curiosity awakens, and with it, the dawn of the Renaissance. In the city of Florence, the streets hum with life again. Painters climb scaffolds, covering blank walls with visions of heaven and earth, woven together in color and light. Leonardo sketches machines that might fly. Michelangelo carves life out of cold stone. And scholars rediscover the old truths, the stars, the human body, the power of reason. The darkness of superstition begins to fade, replaced by the glow of understanding. The world is not flat. The body is not a mystery. And God, they believe, is not threatened by knowledge, but revealed through it. The printing press begins to turn. For the first time in history, knowledge spreads faster than rumor. Books no longer belong only to the rich. Ideas begin to travel, like sparks leaping from mind to mind. A farmer's son can read. A merchant's daughter can write. The walls of ignorance crack, and light floods in. But the Renaissance is not only about art and science. It's about rediscovery of what it means to be human. The beauty of thought, the dignity of the body, the miracle of curiosity. After centuries of darkness, the world looks up and sees itself clearly for the first time. The old world had been ruled by fear. The new one is guided by wonder. And yet, beneath the paintings and marble, beneath the music and laughter, there's a quiet memory of the long night that came before. The people remember the silence, the loss, the fragility of it all. And maybe that's what makes the Renaissance so bright. Because every brushstroke, every song, every discovery is a small defiance, a way of saying, we survived. The Renaissance was not a moment, it was a bridge. One foot still in the Middle Ages, the other stepping carefully into something unknown. The world that once felt small and sacred begins to stretch wider. The oceans no longer mark the edge of the map. They become doors. Ships set sail from Spain, Portugal, and England. Creaking wooden giants, carrying men who believe that beyond the horizon lies destiny. The age of exploration begins. They sail into storms and silence, their ships tossed like toys on black waves. Some never return. Others find lands they never imagined. Gold, spices, strange creatures, but also pain, conquest, and loss. The hunger for discovery becomes a hunger for power. Empires rise from curiosity, and the world for the first time is bound together by trade, by maps, by both wonder and greed. Back home, the printing press never stops. Words become weapons. Ideas spread faster than kings can silence them. A German monk named Martin Luther nails a paper to a church door, and in that single act, the old world cracks again. The Reformation begins. Faith and power collide, and the church that ruled for 1,000 years begins to splinter. People start to believe that they can speak to God directly, that they can think freely, that they can question everything. The world grows louder and freer. Science follows. Telescopes point toward the stars. Microscopes reveal the invisible. The earth itself is no longer the center of the universe. And yet, for the first time, humans begin to understand their place in it. Galileo, Copernicus, Newton. Their names echo like thunder through the halls of history. Knowledge, once forbidden, is now unstoppable. But even as progress blooms, the world carries its scars. Wars rage, empires fall, old powers fight to keep control. And through it all, the human heart remains the same. Still searching, still dreaming, still afraid of the dark. From stone castles to printing presses, from whispered prayers to written laws, from superstition to science, the road from the Middle Ages leads here, to us. Every comfort we know, every idea we hold, was paid for by the lives that came before, the farmers, the builders, the dreamers who lived and died beneath cold stars. The story of the medieval world is not just a story of kings and battles. It is a story of survival, of how humanity learned to crawl out of the dark and reach for the light. And though centuries have passed, that same journey continues, every day, in every one of us. The fire burns low, the last bell fades into the night, and once again, the world grows quiet. You close your eyes, and somewhere far away, the sound of the old world still lingers. The echo of a blacksmith's hammer, the song of a monk in the dark, the heartbeat of a world learning how to dream. And so, our long journey through the Middle Ages comes to rest. From the cold stone castles to the crowded village markets, from the plagues that silenced the world to the bright fires of the Renaissance, we've walked through 1,000 years of time, 1,000 years of struggle, of faith, of hope that refused to die. The people who lived in those centuries did not know that they were part of history. They were simply living, day by day, moment by moment, trying to survive the cold, the hunger, and the darkness. And maybe that's what connects us most to them, because we too are just passing through time, doing our best to understand the world and to leave something gentle behind. As you rest now, think of those who came before you, the ones who tilled the soil, built the walls, lit the candles, and dreamed the same dreams you dream tonight. Every heartbeat you feel is part of theirs. Every breath belongs to the same long story. History never truly ends. It only falls asleep, waiting for someone else to remember it. The night is deep now. The world outside has grown quiet. Let it stay that way. Let the voices of the past fade slowly. The monks chanting, the smith hammering, the bells tolling in the fog. And as they fade, feel your body grow heavier, your thoughts softer, your eyes closing. You are safe. You are warm. You are part of everything that came before. The fire has gone out, but the warmth still lingers. Somewhere beyond the quiet hills, a new dawn waits, but not yet. Not tonight. Tonight, the world rests. The fields that once echoed with battle cries are now silent meadows, covered in silver mist. The great cathedrals stand dark and still, their bells asleep, their walls holding the whispers of centuries. In the ruins of old castles, wildflowers grow between the stones. The wind moves softly through empty corridors, carrying nothing but peace. Even time seems to slow here, breathing in and out like the tide. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the footsteps of the past fading into the horizon. The farmers, the builders, the monks, the dreamers, all gone now, but never forgotten. Their stories live in every breath of air, every stone, every heartbeat that still dares to hope. And now, they rest. The stars above are the same ones they looked upon 1,000 years ago, cold, distant, but eternal. They watched over kings and peasants alike. They watched cities rise and crumble. They watch over you now. And as you lie here, their light drifts slowly across your closed eyes, soft, endless, ancient. Let your thoughts drift away as gently as dust in candlelight. Let the past dissolve into silence. Let your body grow heavy, your mind still. The story has ended, but the dream continues. Somewhere, in another time, a new morning waits. Another chapter, another beginning. But for now, you are safe here, between centuries, between breaths. The night is yours, and it asks for nothing but sleep. The sky is still grey, but the stars have begun to fade. A thin mist rises from the fields, rolling through the ruins of stone and memory. The long night is over, and with it, an age. For 1,000 years, the world slept beneath the weight of shadow. Now, it stirs again, slowly, gently, as though waking from a dream. In the valley below, a small village stirs. A single chimney sends up a line of smoke. A door creaks open. Somewhere, a rooster calls, soft, uncertain, as if the world has forgotten what morning sounds like. The baker lights his fire. The smell of bread begins to fill the air once more. Children yawn, rubbing their eyes, and the day begins, quietly, as all things do. It is not the same world their ancestors knew. The wars are memory now. The plagues, the famine, the fear, all have melted into the soil. But their echoes remain, whispering lessons in every sunrise. The people here don't speak of kings or saints. They speak of work, of seasons, of simple joys. The swing of a hammer, the hum of bees, the warmth of sunlight on bare hands. They don't know that they are living in the age of rebirth, but they feel it, in every breath of clean air, in every sound of laughter, in every page that turns in the books their children will read. The medieval world is gone, but its spirit lingers, quiet, resilient, rested now in peace. As the sun rises higher, the bells ring once more, not for morning, but for life. The sound carries across the fields, over rivers and ruins, into the wide open world. And for the first time in centuries, the light feels endless. You can rest now, knowing that every story, even one filled with darkness, finds its dawn. History breathes again, and somewhere, a new chapter waits to be told. The sea stretches out before us, vast, endless blue-gray beneath the morning sun. The air smells of salt and wind, and the sound of the waves beats like a slow pulse against the wooden hull of a ship. The year is no longer medieval. The sails rise tall and white, and the horizon, that line once feared as the edge of the world, now calls to men like a song. They set out from quiet ports in Spain, Portugal, and England, their ships loaded with dreams, their hearts trembling with both courage and fear. They are not knights, nor monks, nor peasants. They are explorers. The world is changing, and they can feel it with every gust of wind. Behind them lies 1,000 years of faith and famine. Ahead, the unknown. Days at sea blur together. The sky and water become one. Some nights are calm, the stars bright and kind. Others are wild, the sea rising like a living thing, testing every plank, every prayer. But through it all, they sail on. Because somewhere beyond the horizon, they believe, a new world waits. When they finally find land, it is not the paradise they dreamed of, but it is new, and that is enough. Strange birds cry in the trees. Golden light filters through thick green leaves. The air hums with insects and heat. They do not yet understand what this discovery means. For them, for those who already live there, for the centuries that will follow. They only know that the world is larger than they ever imagined. Back across the ocean, the cities begin to change too. Markets fill with goods from faraway lands, spices, silks, stories. Maps are redrawn, their edges no longer blank. Curiosity has conquered fear. The world is no longer divided between light and dark, between heaven and earth. It has become something vast, alive, and open. In the quiet of night, a candle burns beside a globe, a small flame on a world still half unknown. The explorers sleep, their ships creaking softly in the tide. The ocean breathes beneath them, old and eternal, watching, waiting. The medieval world is gone now. The modern one is stirring, and in between, the sea dreams. The world has opened its eyes, and for the first time in centuries, humanity begins to look around, to question, to imagine, to dream again. In small rooms filled with candlelight, men and women write, draw, and think. The scent of ink hangs in the air. Maps, books, sketches, all scatter across wooden tables. They speak not of miracles, but of motion, of stars, of the turning of the earth, of numbers and patterns hidden in nature's quiet design. They are not priests, but thinkers, painters, inventors, philosophers. And through their hands, the world becomes new again. In Florence, a young artist mixes color with crushed stone, turning walls into windows that open onto heaven. In Germany, metal letters press into parchment, and the printed word begins to travel faster than any horse. In England, telescopes lift the gaze of mankind beyond clouds and fear, and into the stars themselves. Everywhere, the silence of the old world fills with the hum of creation. It is not a loud age, it is slow, careful, like dawn spreading across a field. But in that quiet, something ancient stirs. The belief that understanding the world is itself a form of worship. That beauty and truth are not rivals, but reflections of the same light. Artists paint faces that look back, alive and full of thought. Poets write words that feel like breathing. And scientists, though they do not yet call themselves that, begin to measure, to observe, to find the hidden rhythm in everything. They watch an apple fall and see not a fruit, but a law. They look at the stars and see not gods, but gravity. The world feels new again, not because it has changed, but because people are finally seeing it. The same rivers still run, the same mountains still rise, but now they are seen with wonder, not fear. In this age of light, knowledge spreads like the dawn, one candle lighting another until the darkness grows thin. And somewhere, in a quiet library, a man writes the words that will shape centuries to come. Cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. The Middle Ages have faded completely now. Humanity stands awake on the threshold of the modern world, but with light comes shadow. For every discovery, there are new questions, new hungers, new fears. The age of wonder will soon give way to the age of empires. Ships will sail farther. Guns will grow louder. the world will expand and fracture. But for now, in this moment, the world rests in balance, bright, curious, and endlessly human. The candles of thought still burn, but now their light shines across oceans. Ideas, goods, and people begin to move faster than ever before. What was once a world of scattered kingdoms is now becoming a map of empires. Lines are drawn where none existed. Flags are raised where forests stood untouched. And with every sail that catches the wind, humanity drifts farther from the quiet innocence of discovery towards something far more complex. The sea becomes a highway. Ships cross it endlessly, carrying spices, gold, stories, and sometimes sorrow. Men trade silk for silver and silver for lives. They do not yet see the weight of what they are building. They only see the promise of expansion, the dream of endless land, endless power. The calm waves hide what storms are waiting beneath. In Spain and Portugal, rulers look west. In France and England, maps grow thicker, filled with coastlines no one has yet walked. The printing press hums. Explorers write of lands shimmering with heat and color. Philosophers debate what it means to rule, to conquer, to civilize. The world is connected now, but not at peace. Still, for a moment, there is calm. The sun sets over new harbors, its reflection stretching across calm waters. A ship's bell rings in the distance. Somewhere, in a distant colony, a child laughs, unaware that history is watching. This is the calm before the storm, the breath before the great wars of power and profit. In quiet halls, scientists dream of flight, of machines that will one day replace muscle and sail. Philosophers whisper of freedom, while kings plan conquest. And the earth itself, ancient, patient, listens in silence. It has seen this before. Empires rise and empires fall. Always the same rhythm, always the same tide. The world turns. The fires of curiosity have become fires of conquest. The light of reason glows beside the smoke of cannon. But through it all, humanity continues to move, restless, reaching, chasing a dream that never quite stays still. Soon, the calm will break. The world will change again, through war, revolution, and invention. But tonight, you can rest in this moment between the stillness. Close your eyes and let the waves rock you gently to the rhythm of a world on the edge of awakening. The calm has passed. The silence of empires gives way to the murmur of restless hearts. The air feels heavier now, charged with something new, something waiting to ignite. The world has grown too wide to be ruled by kings alone. In small rooms lit by candlelight, men write words that will change the course of history. Liberty, equality, rights. They are soft at first, just whispers, just ink on paper. But soon they grow louder, echoing through cities, through nations, through every soul that has ever longed to be free. The streets fill with voices. Some cry for freedom, some for justice, some simply to be heard. The world is on fire, not with destruction, but with awakening. From America to France, from farms to factories, from ink to iron, everything begins to move. The old world trembles. Thrones fall. Flags change. And for a brief, brilliant moment, it feels as if humanity might rewrite its own fate. But revolutions are not gentle things. They burn bright, and they burn fast. Hope and violence walk hand in hand. Dreams and fear share the same street. The guillotine falls as quickly as the word freedom rises. And the world learns change has a cost. Yet even through the chaos, the light of progress doesn't fade. It flickers, but it endures. In factories, machines hum for the first time. In cities, Smokestacks reach toward the sky. In laboratories, electric sparks dance like tiny suns. The world is learning to move, not by muscle, but by mind. The clock ticks faster now. Trains whistle across the countryside. Steam curls above rivers, and the hum of engines replaces the silence of old fields. The industrial age has begun. The rhythm of life will never be the same, but beneath the noise, the same questions remain. What does it mean to be free? What does it mean to be human in a world made of iron and smoke? Somewhere, in a quiet corner of England, a writer sits by a fogged window, watching the factory lights flicker in the distance. He writes of children, of poverty, of progress and loss. And though he doesn't know it, his words will echo for centuries. The world has awakened, but awakening is never peaceful. It comes with thunder and light and change. Still, when the noise fades and the smoke clears, a new kind of hope will rise. Because even in revolution, there is beauty, the beauty of becoming something new. Tonight, you've heard the world turn once more, from stillness to motion, from order to chaos, from sleep to awakening. And still, the story continues. The world no longer sleeps in silence. It hums, it breathes, it moves. The rhythm of life has changed, from the slow turning of seasons to the steady pulse of machines. Everywhere there is motion. Gears turn, engines sigh, coal burns, and humanity, for the first time, has learned to shape the power of nature itself. The cities grow, brick by brick, street by street. Tall chimneys reach upward, their smoke curling into grey morning skies. The sound of horses fades. The whistle of trains replaces it, a long, mournful cry that seems to carry across the entire earth. People move faster now. Letters travel by rail. Goods cross oceans in iron ships. Time itself feels tighter, as if the days have shortened. In the heart of every factory, there is heat, a red glow beneath the iron. Men and women work by it, faces shining with sweat and light. They labor long hours, their movements steady, almost mechanical. Yet, in their eyes, a quiet hope still lives, that all this motion, all this noise, will one day build a better world. At night, when the furnaces dim and the streets empty, the cities look almost peaceful. A mist settles over the rooftops. The glow of gas lamps flickers along cobblestone alleys. Somewhere, a distant clock strikes midnight. The smoke lingers, but it feels gentle now, like a soft blanket over a world too tired to rest. Beyond the cities, the countryside changes too. Fields give way to rail lines. Villages stretch into towns. The quiet rhythm of the plow joins with the hiss of the engine. Even the stars above seem to blink through the rising haze, watching as the world remakes itself beneath their ancient light. The age of steam is not cruel, but it is heavy. It demands much: time, strength, and the patience of generations. And yet, beneath the clamor, there is still calm, the steady breathing of the machines, the soft hum of progress, the heartbeat of humanity, steady, enduring, finding beauty even in the smoke. In that strange harmony between man and machine, between silence and sound, the world finds its new rhythm. And as the trains cross valleys, as the ships cut through grey seas, as cities glow like embers in the dark, the earth itself seems to whisper, "Move forward, but do not forget how to rest." The world is no longer ruled by kings or priests. It is ruled by time, and time moves fast. But for now, you can breathe with it, slow, steady, like the turning of a great wheel. Sleep in the rhythm of the rails, rest in the pulse of progress. The night continues. The smoke still hangs above the cities, but beneath it, a quiet glow begins to bloom. The world is no longer lit by fire alone. Now it shines with something new, a steady, living light born from wire and will. Electricity hums softly through walls and streets, turning night into a gentle imitation of day. In every window, a lamp flickers on. And for the first time in history, darkness feels optional. Children read past sunset. Factories work without pause. And cities begin to sparkle like stars fallen to earth. The world has never been so alive or so awake. In the quiet corners of cafes and train stations, people speak of invention, of the future, of things that seem impossible until they are not. The telephone carries voices through invisible air. The camera captures moments that never fade. The airplane touches clouds once thought unreachable. And somewhere in all this wonder, a small group of dreamers looks upward toward the stars. But for now, the dream stays grounded. The hum of streetcars fills the night. Jazz drifts through smoky rooms. Letters cross oceans in days, not months. It is an age of light, but also of longing, for meaning, for peace, for something slower, something human. The modern world glows, but it also hums too loudly sometimes. The same machines that brought progress also bring exhaustion. The same lights that banish darkness also keep the soul from sleeping. And so, amid all the brilliance, some hearts begin to dream of quiet again, of gardens, of stars, of a slower tomorrow. Still, there is beauty here. In the soft flicker of neon on wet pavement, in the murmur of rain against glass, in the laughter that echoes between tall buildings. The world is learning balance, between movement and stillness, between light and dark. And though it stumbles, it keeps dreaming forward. Somewhere, a radio hums. A voice speaks into the dark, its words carried to thousands of unseen ears. It is calm, it is intimate, it feels like connection, like the world whispering to itself. The dream of tomorrow has begun, and though war and sorrow still wait ahead, for now, humanity breathes in rhythm with its own creation. Light fills the horizon, and beneath it, the world finally feels almost at peace. You can rest here, in this soft in-between world, where the old meets the new, and the light hums gently through the dark. History has grown quiet again. The world, though restless, is still human. Sleep within that glow. Breathe with the hum. Dream of what comes next. The lights never go out anymore. Cities gleam through the night. Streets alive. Machines awake. People chasing the ticking of a clock that never stops. The world hums louder than ever. And somewhere in that endless hum, something quiet begins to fade. The stillness that once lived between heartbeats. The new century arrives not with calm, but with motion. Trains scream, planes roar, and factories never rest. The rhythm of the machine becomes the rhythm of life. And though the light shines brighter, the shadows grow longer too. In Europe, a storm gathers. The sound of marching boots echoes through old streets. Flags rise, borders shift. The world that once dreamed of peace begins to dream of power again. The air grows cold. Nations arm themselves, and one by one, the lamps of the world begin to go out. The first great war comes like a nightmare. Metal, fire, and thunder in the soil. The ground shakes, the sky burns. And for the first time, humanity sees what its own inventions can do. The machines that once built dreams now build destruction. The world trembles, then falls silent again. When the smoke clears, there is mourning, but also memory. People promise never again. They rebuild, slowly, carefully, as if trying to remember how to be human. Music returns. Cinema begins to glow on silver screens, and for a moment, hope flickers. But history, like the tide, always comes back. Another storm rises, darker this time, louder. The world falls into shadow again. Cities burn, families scatter. The air itself trembles with grief. And yet, even in the darkest nights, there are small lights. A candle in a window, a song sung softly in the dark, a promise whispered to survive. When it is over, the world stands changed forever. The old empires are gone, the maps are rewritten. The light that once burned for progress now flickers with exhaustion. But the people, they endure. They always have. They look up again to the stars, as if to ask what comes next. And for the first time, the stars answer. The world begins to look beyond itself, beyond nations, beyond wars, toward the silent, endless night of space. The shadows remain, but the dream grows again. The age of shadows is over, but it leaves its mark on walls, on hearts, on time itself. And so the world, tired and wiser, turns its face once more toward the light. Rest in that moment, the hush after the storm, the calm between centuries. Because even in darkness, history still breathes. The earth has grown quiet again. The wars have faded into history, the smoke into sky. And now, humanity looks upward, toward the silent places it once feared. The stars, those same distant lights that watched over ancient fields, now become destinations. A rocket stands against the dawn, white, tall, its skin trembling with fire and dream. Inside, men and women sit in silence, hearts steady, breath slow, as the countdown begins. 10, 9, 8. Each second carries the weight of every age before. Every candle, every wheel, every whisper of curiosity that ever burned in the dark. 3, 2, 1. The ground shakes. Flames bloom like sunrise. And the earth, for the first time, lets go of one of its own. The rocket rises, cutting through clouds and history alike. Beneath it, continents shrink to color and shape. Above it, the endless dark opens, not as void, but as peace. Up here, there are no empires, no borders, only silence, and the slow turning of a blue planet below. From this height, the world looks small, fragile, beautiful, alive. All the wars, the kings, the revolutions, all of them fade into the soft curve of the earth. And for the first time, humanity sees itself whole. The astronaut floats quietly, bathed in sunlight older than memory. His voice crackles softly through the radio. It's so beautiful, so quiet up here. And in that quiet, you can almost hear history exhale, a long, tired sigh of centuries finally at rest. The stars are not cold. They are patient. They have waited for this moment, for humanity to lift its gaze not in fear, but in wonder. For all our noise, all our chaos, we have always been reaching for light, and now we've touched it. The astronaut closes his eyes. The world turns slowly beneath him, like a memory, like a lullaby. Every field, every city, every story spins together. A single dream, still unfolding. In the vastness of space, there is peace. Not silence that is empty, but silence that is full. Full of everything we've ever been, and everything we might still become. And so, the story rests. From ancient fields to endless stars, humanity has journeyed far. Not to escape the earth, but to understand it. Every age, every rise, every fall was just the world learning how to dream. And tonight, you can rest with it. The stars are watching, the earth is sleeping, and history, for now, is quiet. Thank you for listening. If your eyes are closing, let them. History can wait till morning. Good night.